Skeletal problems represent the commonest cause or one of the commonest causes of absenteeism from work in this country. And as we learn how to handle skeletal problems, we learn techniques that can help us with a wide variety of other problems that the human body suffers from. In this program, we'll be talking about various skeletal problems, and we hope you'll join us so that you can help people that you know or yourself with very common skeletal problems.
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of Uchee Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
Even people who generally do not have broken bones may get broken ribs. And a broken rib can be so painful, a person thinks, how can I ever, maybe I won't ever get rid of this pain. I'm going to have this pain in my chest, wherever it is. I'm going to have this the rest of my life. But actually, broken ribs do eventually heal, and the pain does go away. Dr. Don Miller is going to talk with you some about broken ribs and help you to understand this problem a little better.
Well, I've been there too with the broken ribs, and it's an extremely painful process. And the reason why is every time you breathe, your rib cage goes out. You exhale, they come in. And that's painful enough. Now try to sneeze or try coughing. As a matter of fact, sneezing is one of the most strongest impulses you can have, and it can be stopped by the very thought of how much pain it's going to cause you. I've been in mid-sneeze before and just dreading it happening, and as I get ready, it says, I don't want to do this, and my body tells it, don't sneeze. And so it's an extremely exquisite pain. Now, often it's not a broken rib. It could be a tear in the intercostal region. It could be something is torn in the chest area. No matter what it is, it's going to be very painful. Just to breathe, to cough, to sneeze, any of these things, and to put any pressure on it, don't even think about it. You can't put a cast on your chest. Your chest is going to move. Now, to think about how to treat it, I go back in my mind to a farmer back in Eastern Europe 150 years ago named Presnitz. Presnitz was coming back from the fields one day, riding on a wagon full of, I think, hay. For some reason and somehow, he fell off the wagon, and the wagon wheels rolled over his chest. He had a mess on his hands. The doctors of the time says, sorry, you're not going to survive this injury. I mean, that was an acute injury, serious, fatal injury in his time. Well, he did not like the diagnosis nor the prognosis. And so what did this simple farmer do? He went to a window. There was a window glass. It was cold out, and he pressed his chest up against the window, transferring some of the cold to his chest. He also then took rags and cloths and dipped them in cold water and would apply them to his chest, sometimes wrapping them all the way around his torso to cover the area of his injuries. It wasn't a very long time before he started to heal, and of course he got extremely well and perfectly well, to the point that he thought, I have something here, and he started a school in a sanitarium, more or less, that he would bring patients in, and his major treatment modality was cold cloths, cold pores, cold water of any type, and he was unbelievably successful. Kings and queens, heads of state would come to his simple little place to learn what to do. So what does that tell us that we can do? If you injure yourself, I would recommend applying cold to the injured area of the rib. Cold is extremely good. It's analgesic, it brings more blood to the area, and it can speed healing. After you've done cold, you can't keep cold on 24/7. I like to, whenever I injure my ribs, I will put something confining around, perhaps a very wide ace bandage, just to try to keep myself in place. There's something else you can do for the ribs. If you have some surgical tape, about 1.5 or 2 inch wide surgical tape, find approximately where the injury is, and then take about an 8-inch piece of this tape and place the center of it right over the injured area, push it on one side of your chest, and then pull it tight to the other side. Take a second strip and put it at right angles, making a big X on your chest there. And then take a third piece and put it between two of those legs, and a fourth piece between those, until you have about 8 pieces of tape. You're stretching these things across your chest area, and until you've got these 8 radiations coming out of your injured area. This will help hold the ribs in place. Now you want to keep this in that situation for a number of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. You might get a little bit of irritation from the tape. If so, try to get some hyperallergenic tape, some tape that does not give you the problem. But we find that this is a pretty nice treatment for mobilizing and stabilizing the rib area. Other than that, it just takes time. It takes vitamin R, vitamin rest, vitamin T, vitamin time to finally heal this wound. It's a serious wound, but it's not a death-dealing one. Now, if you've got a real full break that might go down and puncture the lung, this is a serious one. You've got to get to a hospital and get it taken care of. But most of them are just small, fine cracks in the rib. They will repair in their own time. And so, Dr. Thrash, it's hard to breathe when you have them and everything else, but that's nature's way of saying, don't mess with me, I want to get myself well.
Yes, and the strapping of the chest is, it will indeed relieve the pain. I'd like to talk with you a bit about scoliosis now. Scoliosis is something that begins often in childhood, and I've asked Justina to assist me with this little demonstration. It's a thing that happens on the back, and a lot of times it begins in childhood, and the child does not have any awareness at all that it's going on. The parent notices that the spine may be getting crooked. With scoliosis, it is an S-shaped curve or a C-shaped curve that you get with the scoliosis. With kyphosis, that means that the chest is out like this, a great big hump out like this. May even be a barrel chest, which is out in front and out in back, with the ribs holding the chest in a kyphotic condition. But a big chest that is humped out this way, that's kyphosis. Some kind of curvature down here in this area where there is an exaggeration of the lordotic curve, that's a very common place for people to get a back curvature. Now, if a child is getting a scoliosis, the parent may not be aware of it by seeing an S-shaped spine. But if the child will just bend over and let the arms hang down, one shoulder blade or the other, depending on where the major part of the scoliosis is, will stick up. And that if one shoulder blade is a little higher than the other, then you know that the child is developing a scoliosis. And that can be very helpful in making an early diagnosis so that things can be rectified if possible, or if not, the orthopedic surgeon can assist with some kind of treatment. Now, the kind of treatment that you can do in the home is to avoid tight bands around the waist. And if you can do that, that will be helpful. But if the child is not wearing tight bands, then you're not going to have much help from that. Another thing is somebody overweight with any kind of skeletal problem, the child or the adult will be much better off if they have a normal weight. And I have a graphic for you that illustrates what good weight is, what proper weight is. I will first show you what the weight is in an average adult by a rule of thumb. 100 pounds for the first 5 feet, and for women, 5 pounds per inch thereafter. For men, 6 to 7 inches thereafter, depending on how muscular the man is. Now that's the average for a person who is in health. But often we are very interested in the health when a person is not well. Perhaps they have cancer, or perhaps they have emphysema, or some other serious health problem. And it's advantageous for them to weigh less than the average healthy adult would weigh. So the therapeutic weight for women is different from the average weight for women. Here you see therapeutic weight in disease and in the elderly. For women, multiply the height by 3.5 and subtract 108, and that equals the total weight. Now, an example is in a 5'6" woman, 66 inches, multiply that by 3.5, and that gives us 231 pounds. Then if you subtract 108 from 231, that gives us 123, or approximately 7 pounds less than the same person we would expect that she could weigh healthfully, in good health and not fighting any kind of disease, and also in youth. Now, for men, the formula is about the same, except that the factors are a little different. In a man, it's the height times 4 minus 128, and that should be the total weight. As an example, a 70-inch man, multiply that by 4 equals 280. 280 minus 128 is 152, and that should be the therapeutic weight for a man who is fighting some kind of serious illness. Now, being thin is a blessing in a lot of ways, and there are some diseases that people can have that can make us very happy when they weigh the therapeutic weight. TMJ, or temporomandibular joint problem, this is a serious matter for some people. They can't eat, they can't chew, they don't have an easy head, and this makes a serious problem in some people's lives. Dr. Don Miller is going to talk with you now about temporomandibular joint disease.
This is one I don't have, and I'm glad I don't have it, although I'm surprised I do not. TMJ can be caused by a number of things, and one that I've read about, and I can see how it can happen. Have you ever gone to the dentist office and he's sitting there looking in your mouth, or she's looking in your mouth, and they give you a shot of Novocaine because they really want it to get in there without much impediment, and then they say open wide, and you do, and they say open wider, and you open wider, and pretty soon your head is completely wide open, and this can cause some serious problems later on because you overextend your jaws, which really don't go back together right again. And so what you want to do is when they say open wider, say, well, you can't really say, oh, it'll go. You want to open it not quite as far, and that might be good. The TMJ can be caused by different problems, like you could have some arthritis in your joint, basically wearing away the articulating joint, and so when your lower jaw moves up and down where it connects back here at the temporomandibular joint, it causes some rubbing which causes the pain, and therefore you've got your TMJ, or your temporomandibular joint dysfunction. Normally it's characterized by pain right about where the joint is that can radiate up to the temples or down to the neck. Now there's a few things you can do with that right there. You can try doing some pressure on the area. We call it trigger point therapy. And sometimes you can get released by pressing on an area and holding it there for a while and then releasing your pressure. One thing I've learned when I'm doing some trigger points on people, they can be extremely sensitive, and when you're pressed on these things and you've got it smashed down pretty good and they're going through some pain, what you want to do is divert their attention by doing something with your other hand. What I like to do, I like to go back and give them a little scalp friction with my fingertips as I'm pushing here, or I might massage their shoulder while I'm pushing here. Now they've got two major inputs of sensations coming in, and the brain really can't deal with them all, and so they'll both be lessened, and you want to lessen the pain as much as you can. There are some other things that you can do. Applying heat 3 or 4 times a day. A lot of heat you can do is a heating pad. You can put it in front of a heating lamp, but you want to heat up the area. Now you can tell if a person has TMJ if when they open and close their mouth you hear a clicking sound. That clicking sound means that they don't have good functioning in the joint, and that can cause a lot of pain. And TMJ can be very, very painful for the person. We recommend a person with TMJ to fast at least one day a month, but perhaps even a few times a week. Not the whole day, but a meal a week. You need to let your jaws rest. A person with TMJ should eat a meal and rest at least 5 hours in between that meal and the next meal to let their jaws completely recover. A person with TMJ should not keep their jaws clenched all the time. They should, when they're sitting there, even keep their teeth apart when they're not talking or doing anything else. And a good way to do this is to put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. When you do that, you pretty much force your bottom jaw down a little bit and your teeth aren't together. People with TMJ have a tendency to grind their teeth at night. And if you practice keeping your jaws apart during the day, it might carry on over into the night. But there are also some nice things that you can purchase that you can put into your mouth which will keep you from injuring your teeth in this grinding process. There are other bite planes that you can purchase that will keep you even from grinding your teeth at night. Good things to do. You need to learn how to relax. People just are too tense all the time. Learn to relax the jaws, and that will help out. Keep away from chewy foods. Things that take a lot of chewing. And I'm not talking about, a carrot, yes, it takes a lot of chewing, so you might not want to eat a whole lot of carrots. You might want to chop them up first, but especially things that are gummy. That gives you a clue right there. Don't chew gum. Not a very good thing to be doing if you have TMJ. You want to drink through a straw, which would be helpful for a person, and chew on both sides of the mouth. Even though one side might be tender, chew on both sides so you do not strengthen one muscle and weaken the other muscle. You want to chew on both sides. There are some exercises that you can also do. You can take your hands, wash them nicely. You should never put your fingers in your mouth unless they've been washed, because you don't know where they've been the last time. You want to take your finger, and let's say your pain is behind your right eye. Take your right index finger, put it in the right side of your mouth, put it up behind the upper molar and push behind that molar, pointing in the middle of your head, and give it a good push for 2 or 3 seconds and then relax it. And then push it again and relax it. Do this a few times. You can also do some jaw exercises. Put your thumbs below your jaw and then open your jaw, giving a little bit of pressure, exercising. Then put a hand on the side of your jaw and push over. A hand on the other side and push over. Another nice one is take your fingers, put them inside your cheeks, you know how children do it sometimes, and you pull it out until you just start to feel the pain. Hold it for a slight period of time and then release it again. Some people, when they're talking on the telephone, they cradle the telephone in their neck so they can go about other business. Don't do that. If you have a tendency to do this, get a headset, and so you do not have to do this type of an action. When you're sleeping at night, don't sleep on your stomach, don't sleep on your side, don't sleep with your hands behind your head. Try to lay as much as possible straight on your bed, and it will help you. Ice can be extremely good for this. Wherever you might feel your tension and your pain, let's say you feel the tension from your TMJ radiating down your neck. Apply ice to this for a short period of time, and then start doing some stretches to that area. Stretch it, do ice on the other side, stretch it, do stretching of your head. As a matter of fact, even if you do not have TMJ, it's good to do some stretching exercises. Right, left, forward, backwards, with resistance, pushing against resistance, pushing against resistance. These things can find very good benefit if you have the TMJ. So, some simple things you can try to do. Again, I can't talk as an authority because I've never had it, but if you had it, try these simple things. And I believe that no matter what, you're going to get some relief, if not complete relief, from your problem. And I think those things are pretty good. And now I think you know someone that has TMJ. Do you know anything else that they do?
Yes, no, those things are very good. I do know someone who has TMJ, someone in my family, and an allergy turned out to be the big cause of her bruxism, which is the grinding of the teeth at night. And the bite plane can be very helpful. That's worn at night, and sometimes it has to be worn for some years. So we do hope that these simple things that Dr. Miller mentioned for you can be helpful for the TMJ. Now, if a person has dislocations, these can be nicely treated with just some very simple things that you can usually do at home. Now, if these occur in a place where you can get professional help, you may want to do that because there may be some problem with the joint that makes it slip out of joint. But I've asked Justina Thomas to help me with this, and we'll start with a pretended elbow that's out of joint. Now, if she actually had an elbow out of joint, she would not be so free in moving this arm, but would probably hand it to me in a very gentle way. But when someone has an elbow that's out of joint, you can usually tell it by simply looking at it. It looks out of joint. And so you simply put your thumb between the two bones and put a little traction on it like this, and then rotate. So it's pressure there, pull, and twist a little bit. And usually it will just roll right back into joint, and by looking at it, you will be able to tell which direction you should turn it most of the time. So that's very helpful with an elbow joint that's out of joint and you don't have a doctor available. Now, another thing is a shoulder out of joint. Same kind of thing. These often occur in children when they're walking along with the parent. They have the hand over the head. The parent is holding the child's hand, and then the child starts to fall, and the parent jerks the child's arm and it jerks it out of joint. That's a typical scenario. And if you're the only person around who can put it into joint, you may want to just put one hand up here. Patient won't like it, so don't spend a lot of time doing it. Pull, you're putting a little pressure here and pushing away and a little traction. And again, it's a little twist, and it will often just go right back into joint, and the person has very little difficulty with that. Now, a hip out of joint is much more difficult, but again, if you're the only person around, you should try to do it. The person lies down, you put your foot in the groin on the side where the out of joint hip is, and then pull on the foot, and again it's rotate a little bit, and often it will go right back into the joint with a great big scream from the patient. Thank you very much, Justina. Now, osteoporosis has some very good causes, and we're going to show you some things that cause osteoporosis, and Dr. Don Miller is going to talk with you about those causes of osteoporosis.
Well, you can't really have a discussion on bones and things unless you discuss what causes the problems with the bones. Our bones are made up of a lot of calcium, and it's the lack of calcium that causes us to get osteoporosis. And we're going to show you on the screen a few things that cause us to lose our bone calcium. You see the first thing on the list is protein. As protein goes up, calcium goes down. You see alcohol, it's a bone waster. Tobacco, 1% of your bone calcium lost every year if you're postmenopausal. Coffee and tea, cola and chocolate, 1.4% of your bone calcium every year if you're postmenopausal. It's gone right down the drain. Then you have the soft drinks, phosphoric acid. They call them soft drinks because they make your bones soft. That's the reason why, that's what I say anyway. The next thing's aluminum compounds like antacids, baking powder, pickles with alum all cause us to lose our bone calcium. High phosphorus compounds like soft drinks and baking powder. Diets high in sodium, it sounds like the American diet to me, that causes us to lose our bone calcium. A diet high in sugar, here we are, America. thyroid supplements, drugs, steroids, tetracycline, all of these items cause us to lose our bone calcium, and the bone calcium is what we need to keep our bones strong. So as we stay away from these things, we don't have the major problem of losing our bone calcium. See, the countries that lead the world in osteoporosis lead the world in violating these particular things we just saw. They use these things in abundance. Go to a country that does not have osteoporosis and see how they live, and then live like them in one sense as far as their dietary habits. And so I think we should stay away from these things. Another thing we need for osteoporosis, our bones need a daily shake-up. We need to get out and exercise. A woman who gets good exercise, bone stressing exercise, making those muscles, pulling those bones, you're going to find that you have stronger bones, because every time you stress the bones say, we need some more calcium over here. So those are some simple things, Dr. Thrash, that will help us to have good, strong bones until we die of old age.
Oh, yes. And osteoporosis is one of those things that hastens death in some people. Interestingly, one of the places that a lot of people get osteoporosis is in the maxilla, or in the mandible, the two jaw bones around the teeth. And one of the reasons for that is because of infection. A little pyorrhea can start with a little infection. The change in the pH of the surrounding bone can encourage the loss of bone, and fairly soon the tooth becomes wobbly in the socket, and all because of a little infection, and this then makes the tooth ready to fall out. So the patient goes to the dentist. The dentist says, sorry, I'm not going to be able to save your tooth. And that's one of the commonest causes of tooth loss in those who are over the age of 35. How do you keep from getting pyorrhea? One of the ways is not to eat a lot of sugar. Sugar encourages infection around the gums, around the teeth and the gums, and up into the tooth socket, which then encourages osteoporosis. With thyroid supplements, for some reason, they cause the bones to become soft. And so thyroid supplements, especially if they are not needed, but are just given because of some symptom that's unpleasant, like being cold in the morning or not having good energy, those things may not mean that you need thyroid supplement at all. And then having celiac disease, that also can encourage the getting of osteoporosis. So armed with this knowledge, you may be able to help yourself not to get osteoporosis with its humpback and its painful bones here and there, and loss of tooth.